Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the number one source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter. Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter, and welcome to Goldilocks Global Banking News. I'm your host. Fun folks, understand and know there are four major agencies that oversee the revaluation of currencies all over the world. We've been saying this from the very, very beginning. Number one, the U.S. Treasury Department. Two, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. Three, the World Bank. Four, the BIS, Bank of International Settlements. Today, Goldilocks is sharing something from the U.S. Treasury Department, very important to our currency revaluations. And two, from Vietnam, which will be a part of, one of the countries that will be a part of, the currencies revaluating. Let's jump right into what Goldilocks is sharing today. Today, the U.S. Treasury Department issued an advance notice of proposed rulemaking related to the Genius Act for stablecoins, with responses requested within 30 days. Do y'all remember the Genius Act for stablecoins? Do you remember what will back our currencies in the new banking system for the RV besides gold, silver, and other commodities? What will provide the stability behind our currencies in the new banking system? Stablecoins. What was the digital asset regulation Congress just passed several months ago that the president requested to be done when he came in office in January? The Genius Act. Now the Treasury Department is issuing some changes. The legislation delegated many rulemaking responsibilities to the U.S. Treasury Department. What this means, folks, the U.S. Treasury Department is taking more control of the new banking system. For those that may not know, the U.S. Federal Reserve, under the first Trump administration, we showed the proof in writing, where the Federal Reserve was rolled under the control of President Trump through the U.S. Treasury Department. So here we have the U.S. Treasury Department that oversees all currencies in the world, is taking a more frontal approach to the actual assets, stablecoins, that will stabilize the currencies in the new banking system where the RV of currencies will occur. What they're doing is they're banning interest payments on particular assets. The Treasury is proposing this to cut costs that would ultimately be on the end user, which are clients such as us. This is another measure of oversight, control of the U.S. Treasury to assure the best interest of us, not only here in America, but every other country around the world and the currencies that are under them. This is very critical related to the stable coins, folks, because this is in relation to the Genius Act. This is what will continue to provide the stability for not only our currencies, our currency, the United States, but every country around the world that does business and trade with the United States, such as Vietnam, Iraq, and others. When they do trade with us, they will do trade with their currencies, and they will all be backed by stable coins. Because as a country does business with the United States in any way, shape, or fashion, especially through trade, being that we, the United States, has legal frameworks for a stable coin, all those other countries must do so as well. Therefore, it will provide support, strength, and stability behind those countries' currencies. So Vietnam is doing trade with the United States. This provides more strength and stability behind the Vietnamese dong. Iraq is doing trade in some form or fashion with the U.S. This provides more stability behind the Iraqi dinar. Remember, folks, everything is connected to everything. You may hear something about stablecoins and you don't even relate it to the revaluation of currencies. You don't relate it to the RV. Maybe because it's not a hot button topic that is popping up all over social media feeds that tickle your fancy. Whereas Goldilocks explains how that particular topic and subject is directly or indirectly connected to the RV. So that's why it's in your best interest to at least understand and know, or continue to tap in, follow, listen, subscribe, notifications to this channel so that you don't miss any daily updates on the RV. See, folks, this is why, for those that have been following Goldilocks, Wiley, and myself for a while, the vast majority of the many are prepared for their exchanges already. We want to give you the opportunity to be able to do the same thing. Now, if you hold the Vietnamese dong, you do not want to miss what I'm about to share from Goldilocks. There are various mechanisms and various things that are happening right now that will affect the raising in the value of the Vietnamese dong. Goldilocks has been sharing what those are for the last several weeks. This is something else that Goldilocks is sharing. Whereas ETFs, which are electronic, which are exchange traded funds, which happens electronically. Exchange traded funds have exceeded over $680 million in Vietnam just recently. What this does, folks, it anticipates that would create the $680 million in exchange traded funds, ETFs, will increase capital inflows into Vietnam in excess of over $10 billion, following the potential upgrade of Vietnam to the FTSE Russell which is a stock exchange globally. This will exert pressure, upward pressure on the dong, meaning it will create so much volume, power, strength. Think of not behind or above, but below the dong to push it up, to push the value up. But not only the dong would this help to create upward pressure to raise its value, but any country that does trade with Vietnam, they also, those currencies for those other countries, the upward pressure will be on those currencies so that their rates will also be positively affected because they are doing business with and doing trade with Vietnam. So the ripple effect of the Vietnamese dong's value going up will create that effect with other countries that do business with Vietnam. And then think, for those countries who does trade with other countries, the residual effect of their currencies going up as well. See, folks, this is mathematics. Math is scientific. There is cause and effect. Cause and effect. The cause is these mechanisms that Vietnam is implementing that will provide strength and value underneath to propel up the Vietnamese dong. And for those countries that do trade with Vietnam, the effect is their currencies will do the same. It's just the byproduct of the mathematics. Now let's get into Forex. Why? What Vietnam is doing will affect the increasing of the value of the dong. These mechanisms of inflows for business, foreign investors purchasing Vietnamese equities, exchange traded funds through Vietnam's stock market, they typically convert all of this in US dollars or other foreign currencies into the dong to execute trades. Folks, this will create the demand. It will increase the demand for the Vietnamese dong in the Forex market, driving its value higher. Analysis of Vietnam's market dynamics confirm that such equity inflows contribute to currency strengthening by boosting local liquidity and investor confidence. See, this is where the confidence in the dong creates more confidence in the dong. And so as the confidence from investors all over the world become more confident, what do? Buy more dong. What do? They flock to Vietnam's stock market and their industries to invest. As a return, that's a cause. What's the effect? All of that business in Vietnamese dong. What does it do? Increases the value, the rate of the Vietnamese dong. Just think about it. Come on, think. Every last one of you that are listening to this, I'm going to believe that you're all intelligent. I am just going to believe that you have the wherewithal, the gall to understand and know that a piss poor country cannot have a rich currency. And it doesn't happen overnight. To go from piss poor third world overnight to gargantuan rate to justify the rate going up when the country is third world poor? Just think about that. So, if you were to see a homeless person on the street in your local community, Would you imagine them being a multimillionaire? I know some of you are going to think it's just within some of you. You're going to say, "But freedom, there's these poor, these homeless people. They're rich. They drive BMWs and Mercedes Benz." Is that the exception or the rule? I know many of you some of you want to begin to think, "Oh, there's this poor person. I know he's rich," because you want to justify the means to think that a third world country overnight will all of a sudden have a rate that'll go through the roof. Okay, what's going to justify that rate to become so high? Where's the support, the financial support behind it to occur for a rate to be so high overnight? Poof! Because someone said so. If that's the case, just take the house you live in, the home, the apartment, wherever you live. Why don't you go put it on the market for $10 million? See if you get it. You can't do that? Why not? You don't need justification for a rate to be so high. The price of your home, just sell it for $10 million. Anybody will accept it because you said your home is worth $10 million. You're going to get $10 million. Doesn't there have to be some sort of analysis to confirm and validate that $10 million house that you claim is worth $10 million? You don't think appraisers are going to come and justify what you think is a house that should be $10 million that you live in? You've been paying a mortgage or rent for $300, $500, $1,000, $2,000 a month, and it's worth $10 million on the market? Really? So how do you expect? How can you even justify? Not you, because many of you are intelligent. How can anyone justify a certain rate for any third world country for a rate to be X without the justification to back it up? See, folks, Vietnam has all of the justification now to support an actual increase in the value of the Vietnamese dong. But no one can determine a specific rate for any currency ahead of time. The markets determine the value. Vietnam, with the increase in the demand for the Vietnamese dong and forex, is a byproduct. It's a result. It's the effect of the mechanisms that Vietnam has implemented, such as banking reforms, such as meeting certain requirements that are in line with international standards to justify more demand in the dong, which as a result increases the rate of the dong in the open market. There's been many studies on Vietnam stock market that show that the exchange rate of the dong and the appreciation or the raising in the value of it has long-term association with the performance of the Vietnamese economy over the last 20 plus years. Just think, all of the success, the growth in their economy over the last 20 plus years, but the rate of the dong has been doo-doo. Truly, they made it. They actually controlled it to make sure meaning the Central Bank of Vietnam and the government specifically to keep the value of the dong down. But now moving into the new digital banking system, which for years they've been preparing to go into, Vietnam knew, just like every other country, going into a new digital banking system whereby gold backs all currencies, all countries had to become compliant so that they wouldn't be left behind in the new banking system. Overall, the upgrade of Vietnam's stock market anticipated to be upgraded next month. It aligns with their goal to have a 7% GDP growth, which they've been doing so always for the last 10 years. Vietnam has issued even more government reforms to provide a legal framework that continuously supports the increasing in the value of the Vietnamese dong. And these reforms, folks, they are not reforms specifically to raise the value of the dong. They are reforms to strengthen the banking system with legal backing that attracts foreign investments into Vietnam through their stock market and physical factories into Vietnam. And think billions and billions and billions of dollars flooding into Vietnam, that in turn, those billions turned into trillions in dong because of the inflows of all of this business. As a result, this increases the value of the dong. So the justification is there. Vietnam is no longer considered, in theory, a third world country. See, for example, China is not considered a third world country. They have the second largest economy behind the United States. But Vietnam is the fastest growing economy in the last 20 years, even more so than China. Think about that. But now Vietnam has the mechanisms to support the strengthening of the dong indirectly. And it's being considered that they'll be upgraded by the FTSE Russell, their stock market to be upgraded by the FTSE Russell October the 7th next month. What that would do is provide more justification and strength and stability in their economy so that in turn the effect would be the strengthening in the value of the Vietnamese dong. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure and honor to be able to come to you each day and provide you with this information. We hope that each and every one of you take advantage of this knowledge and information and get yourself prepared, as Wiley consistently has shared the importance of establishing your relationships. We have pounded that into many of your heads over and over again. All it takes is just one of you to do it. It'll change your life forever in preparation for this blessing. Be well, folks. We love you. Ciao, ciao. Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the #1 source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RV GCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RV GCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter.